Okay. Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Rana Ravi from MSME and Startup Committee, ICAI. Today we are here for Pathshala series 59, and I would like to welcome our speaker sir Pradeep Kumar Lath sir and our coordinator ma'am Numit CA Numit Verma ma'am. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Ranaji. Very good afternoon, sir. Pradeep, sir, very good afternoon.
Sure.
Yeah, we welcome you for this enriching series, sir. So, for the participants, I would like to introduce sir. He doesn't need any introduction. Everyone of you knows him well. I think there is some network issue with me. Just a minute. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. So, Mr. Lath is a chartered accountant in practice since 1988, and he has an experience of debt syndication project and other consulting works. He has done loan syndication of more than 300 MSMEs. He has also been Central Statutory Auditor of public sector banks like Union Bank in 2009, SBM 2013, and PNB in 2018, and many branches of banks. He has worked with PwC Kolkata in their management consultancy division from mid 1985 to January 1988, and he has experience of different assignments, including pre-feasibility study of a project. He's in part-time teaching profession also. He has more of passion and satisfaction. His focus has always been to bring the industry interface to the students as well as conceptual and in-depth learning outcomes. Mr. Lath has been a visiting faculty to XIBM Corporate Taxation in 1988. Thereafter, taught project appraisal and financing from 1994 for almost 2 decades with consistent good feedback. Project financing at SPGen Center of Management in Dubai and Singapore for a decade. Project appraisal and financing at Praxis Business School, Kolkata for a decade. Project financing at IIM Raipur from January to March 2023. Resource person on internal financial control for HPCL corporates at IIM Raipur in September 2023. Faculty, orientation and GMCS programs of the ICAI, and webinar on project financing by ICAI in May 2023 with participants exceeding 2,000. He is a faculty in the first certificate course on project financing of our institute, launched at Mumbai in August 2024. He has, to his credit, various publications and articles. He has co-authored a book on project appraisal and financing, published by Himalaya Publishing House in June 2018. He has written an article on credit risk rating of projects, published in the book on projects authored by Dr. Prasanna Chandra, 7th edition onwards. He has also cleared IAS prelims without any preparation in 1985. He was the sole representative in National Talent Exam from GM College in 1978-79. He was the president of Rotary Club of Sambalpur Central in the year 2000-2001, with major activities including start of first trade fair at Sambalpur, handing over the completed club building from a dilapidated state and other major events. He was the chairman of Sambalpur branch of EIRC in 2011-12, and the branch was appreciated for the first time since inception, organized the first sub-regional conference of Sambalpur branch in February 2012. Thereafter, chairman in 2 conferences of Sambalpur and Jharsuguda branch. Member of Rotary Group Study Exchange Program to Texas in USA in 1901, and leader to Idaho and adjoining states in USA in 2011. He has represented college and Sambalpur University in badminton and won college championship in the year 1981 as well as district champion in 1981 and years later. Project chairperson for Rotary's Global Grant Project at remote area, Naupali district, Bargarh, Odisha, recently completed for girl student related to sanitation and hygiene for Kanya Gurukul. Involved in other philanthropic activities primarily in the city of Sambalpur. Is also a member of civil society group at Sambalpur for development of the city and member of Laghu Udyog Bharati and Sambalpur. We are really thankful to you, sir, for sparing your valuable time. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
नमस्कार, अब मुझे स्टार्ट करना है राणा जी?
जी सर.
Yes, sir. Please
और
start.
कोई बोलना है, और कोई बोलना चाहता है कि मैं स्टार्ट करूं?
No, sir. Start, sir. Please start.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Numit madam, CA Numit, for the kind introduction. बहुत अच्छा आपने डिटेल बोला. मैं सोचा संक्षिप्त बोलेंगे आप, बट आपने बहुत अच्छा बोला. भगवान आपका भला करे. Our Rana ji called me 10 days back कि सेमिनार करना है, तो 2 घंटे का लेक्चर है. But generally when we have a small lecture of 2 hours, it is 10 into x, means 20 घंटे की प्रिपरेशन चाहिए. तो मैंने राणा जी को बोला भाई इस हफ्ते छोड़ दो, आप नेक्स्ट हफ्ते करेंगे. बट आप 20 घंटा हो चाहे 36 घंटा हो जो हम लोग पढ़ाते हैं कोर्स, उसमें हमको ज्यादा टाइम लगता नहीं क्योंकि हमारे पास मटेरियल रहता ही. 2 घंटे में थोड़ा टाइट सिचुएशन हो गई, हमको प्रिपरेशन करना. तो दैट्स व्हाई आई टुक टाइम. राणा जी, आवर कमिटी चेयरमैन श्री ज्ञान जी है और वाइस चेयरमैन अर्पित जी है. दोनों का नाम से ही आ रहा है ज्ञान अर्पित. तो अपना सीरीज जो है पाठशाला, ये भी स्कूल की याद दिलाती है. ये दोनों मिलके अपने ज्ञान अर्पित कर रहे हैं, अपने स्कूल की याद दिलाते हुए अपने ज्ञान के लिए अच्छा है, अपने इंस्टीट्यूट के लिए बहुत अच्छा है. So this is what I wanted to start with. And yesterday was a very black day. Stories were coming out. One of the worst air crash we had. Many hopes lost, many hopes dashed. One man survives the miracle, showing there is one force behind him. One lady missing the flight and saved. So many things. So God is there. So we invoke God in our mind and we start. I again thank all the organizers. And this time is a little odd. Maybe some people are having lunch or maybe having dozing off for some afternoon siesta. But we will go ahead. Now, you are all aware of that MSMEs are contributing 30% to India's GDP, which is a good amount, and it is providing employment to the extent of 40%. So you just imagine how much employment or sector of the government we are having from the MSME. Recently, you are all aware the MSME has got a sea change in the definition. Almost 2.5 times and 2 times. So that increase in the numbers has enlarged the MSME compass as such. तो इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा मतलब इंडस्ट्रीज आ जाएंगी. I think 99% if you go by the numbers, it will come under MSME. Before I start the main presentations, I have a few questions. Like this series on MSME, the stages, planning, etc., is not only relevant to us as chartered accountants, it is also relevant to entrepreneurs who are who want to start an industry, or people who new people who want to some startup. So my question is, how many of you who are listening want to start an MSME, but not able to do because there are a lot of risks attached. You know, anything you go new, there is risk attached. Unforeseen future, uncharted territory. You are happy being in the comfort zone. Difficult to decide what type of industries, enterprise, or service you want to start. It's a important decision is what industry you want to start. It's a very important question which comes in mind, and people don't go beyond that and lag behind. New generation, जो resource, जो हिसाब से चल रहा है. New generation, when they see their people around, then the environment around, they basically go into that environment. एक डॉक्टर का बेटा डॉक्टर बन जा रहा है, इंजीनियर का बेटा इंजीनियरिंग जा रहा है. So sort of these things happening, and person moving out from that zone to a difficult zone, it's a difficult area. So whether you are as a CA, whether you have visited any whether you are visited some industries enterprise or not, you have got industry wise information or not, is very important. Whether you are updated on the latest MSME circulars, policies, eligible incentives. I understand that we already had a seminar on the industrial policies. So whether you are aware of the industrial policies of each state, which is very important. So with this background, these are some questions which must be addressed before we go into the project stages. राणा जी, स्लाइड चेंज हो रहा है कि नहीं? हेलो, तो स्टेजेस ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट का स्लाइड आया?
नहीं आया सर. First slide है सर. The introduction.
First slide is still there, na? I understand. And stages of the project. And stages of the project का आया? I am coming to the stages of the project now. Now, the first stage you can see is what? Conception stage, which is nothing but idea generation. आप भारत में कहीं भी जाएंगे, आपको कोई ना कोई ज्ञान जरूर दे देता है. आप कोई मरीज से मिलने जाएंगे हॉस्पिटल, आप थोड़ा देर बैठिएगा, जो आदमी मिलने आएगा वो कुछ ना कोई ज्ञान देके चले जाएगा, चाहे वो डॉक्टर हो चाहे नहीं हो. आप डेली व्हाट्सएप खोलेंगे, आपको एक ज्ञान मिल जाता है, सुबह ज्यादा भी मिल जाता है. तो ज्ञान की कोई मतलब परिभाषा नहीं है, आपको कहीं ना कहीं से ज्ञान मिलते रहता है. बट दिस वी आर नॉट इनटू दिस. वी आर एक्चुअली इनटू सॉलिड आइडियाज व्हिच विल बी आवर इंडस्ट्री. If I talk of revered Swami Vivekananda, it is told that he used to have his dreams in the night. और जब सोता था वो, he used to have his Guru Ramakrishna deliver his sermon at night. और वही sermon को next day extempore अपने विवेकानंद जी बोलते थे. But उनकी साधना अलग थी, वो class apart थे, and he was definitely a very great man to that extent. Academics principle of displacement was in that simpler, very simple way. He was in the bathroom, and no such brainstorming sessions were there. वहां से उसको मिला principle of displacement. एक जर्मन साइंटिस्ट था अगस्ट केकुले. He was into the theory of organic chemistry के theory पे था, and he during his dream or daydream he saw a snake biting its own tail. जब वो देखा सांप अपनी पूंछ को ही काट रहा है, गोल सर्कुलर रिंग स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ थिंग ही सॉ, एंड ही वाज फाइंडिंग आउट द बेनिजिन स्ट्रक्चर, एंड दैट ड्रीम टुक हिम टू द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ बेनिजिन. जस्ट इमेजिन, आप एक रिसर्च कर रहे हो और आपको काफी दिन से मेहनत चल रही आती और आपको ड्रीम में आके वो आइडिया आपकी सक्सेस हो जाती. यू आर एबल टू नो दैट दिस इज द प्रोजेक्ट, दिस इज द स्ट्रक्चर आई वांटेड टू हैव. So this is very easy way that you get a idea of the project. But on the other hand, supposing a company, say like Reliance, who has got a lot of cash reserves, and he tells his employees down the line, through the lowest rung, that I have got adequate cash reserves to think of some ideas and then let me know, we will go for the project. The idea percolates down to the lowest rung. वहां से लोग लगे हैं कि भाई हाँ आइडिया देने से पैसा भी मिलेगा, कुछ अवार्ड भी है, तो लोग में ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग हो रहा है. And then X, Y, Z, everybody, Tom, Dick, Harry, everybody is involved there. And the ideas go up one stage up, one second stage up, and scrutinized, and thereafter a bunch of ideas finally selected. And finally, maybe 2, 3, 4 are selected. A lot of sessions are there, a lot of efforts is there, but that is the way like you can generate all. So the two contrasting ways I just told, but it can happen that the idea can come out from easy way as well as difficult way. So this is what I want to tell, that idea can come from anywhere, and the sources, one of the sources you see here, which I think is the best source, is the need of the society. Now, if some missing attribute is there in the society and some need is there, that is very important. So, if you are able to address the need of the society, nothing like that. So, if you are able to address the need of the society, what I mean to say, the missing attributes, then only it is possible. For example, when I talk about this airline ticket, for example, when I was working in PwC, we had a dedicated employee who used to go to the counter of Air India. वहां से वो जाता था, तो दिन भर लगाता था, फ्लाइट एक होती थी खाली. तो जब मुझे कागड़ा से बैंगलोर जाना है, तो वो they used to bring a bunch of tickets like a checkbook. 5-6 कागज रहते थे. It was a huge task, and I did not know how much I have to pay. Nobody knew, and so we have to pay 15,000 from Calcutta to Bangalore. That was it, and there was no competition, nothing like that. Today, at the click of the mouse, you are knowing which sector, how much, which flight, what time, at what rate. What if I want some additional benefits, how much to pay? The scenario is changed. So that attribute of coming into the queue. Similarly, the railway tickets, if you wanted during our school days or my college days or beyond that also, we used to line up the queues in the railway counter, or your person is lining up there, and you don't know whether you get the correct ticket or not. I mean, the confirmed ticket or not. This was the situation. Now, at the click of the mouse, you know everything. So this is what is changing out. You come to our Odisha's person who has made news of the Oyo theory, the Oyo hotels. Initially, when he started off, there was no hotel. He just catapulted the smaller hotels to a comfort zone of having some minimum standards in the hotel. Like housekeeping कुछ हो अच्छा, ऐसा नहीं हो कि एकदम नादारद रहे. Housekeeping minimum level, the cleanliness minimum level, and minimum some breakfast. With this, he captured the market like anything. He catered to the middle class, and today he's got 1.2 million rooms under his, including homestays. So just imagine with the concept, with the need of the society, you are able to satisfy. For new generations today, like we see today, very common that Swiggy, Zomato, for example. आपको भूख लगी है, आपके पास घर में खाना रेडी नहीं है, कोई आदमी काम कर रहा है, सिंगल है, उसको प्रॉब्लम है, तो वो क्या कर रहा है? ऑर्डर दे रहा है स्विगी जोमेटो में और खाना आ जा रहा है घर पे. आप घर पे उठे, आप देखिए आपकी वाइफ की तबीयत ठीक नहीं है, आप 2 जन हो, आपका बेड आई नहीं है, आप क्या करेंगे? आप भी not only the younger generation but maybe people like us also sometimes order and get. आपको एक ही आइटम खाना है, इडली ही खानी है, तो ब्रेकफास्ट पे इडली भी आपके घर पे पहुंच जाएगी. So just imagine the concept of Zomato, a company which is not even 15 years, has got a market capitalization of 2.4 or 2.5 trillion INR. Whereas the hotel, the Taj hotels, the branded, the best possible hotel, आप जो समझ रहे हैं, yes, best possible service, great aesthetics, that brand, Indian Hotels brand is 1.1 million. कहीं नीचे, no brick mortar in case of Zomato. यहाँ buildings आप देखेंगे, मुझे याद आ जाता है, मुझे जब भी ताज की बात होती है तो मुझे मेरी स्कूल टाइम की याद आती है. जब स्कूल से हम निकले, just passed out from class 10, we went to Mumbai for a tour and near Gateway of India, अचानक हम देखते हैं कि ताज होटल के सामने बहुत भीड़ है. We also went there and peeped inside what was there out from, not peeped inside, from outside only, and we saw a long car like Impala or limousine there, and Gura Chitta actor Ranbir Kapoor came out well dressed in white dress and he sat in the car and went. उस समय हम छोटे बच्चे हिसाब से सोचते थे यार ये ड्रीम था हमारे लिए कि ताज में हम जाके रह सकते हैं कि नहीं रह सकते. बट यू सी द होल थिंग इज चेंज. तो जोमेटो ने एक अलग चीज लाया, अलग सेटिस्फाई किया. आपको कुछ नीड आपकी सेटिस्फाई कर रहा है तभी जाके चल रहा है. एंड हिज एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन इज क्वाइट ह्यूज. Maybe he's not reached the Tata's level, but he's still good. Now we hear that Rapido, recently we heard, 2 days back I read, Rapido is denting the market share of Swiggy and Zomato to great extent. तो ऐसा है कि वो Swiggy, Zomato भी रहेंगे, but कुछ न कुछ कोई और कंपटीशन आएगा, तो मे बी we say every time there is a product life cycle. So who will stay on the top? We don't know. There is a product life cycle. But you see Taj, more than 100 years old, still continuing the best possible service. People are praising it like anything. It has to continue. Now, one of the attributes, when I say missing attributes, one of the attributes which is very dominant, not only in India, other countries also, is pricing. यदि आपको वही सामान कुछ सस्ते में मिलता है, definitely आप वही सामान खरीदेंगे. Same quality, same thing. Supposing somebody is buying at 10 rupees and you are getting the same thing at 9 rupees, are you a fool to buy at 10 rupees? Definitely you buy at 9 rupees. So I again remember of my MBA days in XLRI, 80s, early 80s, when we had the example of Nirma. Now, when a lady has to tell her staff to bring detergent, वो क्या बोलती थी उसको? भाई सर्फ ले आना. कभी नहीं बोलेगी डिटर्जेंट ले आना. वो जब लेडी थी वहां पर 80s में, तो वो बोलेगी कि आप डिटर्जेंट कभी बोलती नहीं थी, कि वो पाउडर, वॉशिंग पाउडर नहीं बोलती, सर्फ ले आना. वो स्टाफ भी समझ जाता था कि मुझे क्या लाना है. Then came Nirma. Darshan Bhai came out with a small girl's, his daughter's Nirma's ad, and the girl started revolving. There's a whiteness on her skirt. Now his focus was not only on the pricing, but उसकी 3 rupees or compared to 30 rupees of HLL. The whiteness is an attribute. Remember this. वो जो focus मारा कि लड़की की scarf white हो जा रही है, that was one attribute. Simple packaging to cut costs. He gave another attribute, money back guarantee. आज आप कई बार सामान लेते हैं Amazon से या कहीं से भी साइट से, आपके पास मनी बैक गारंटी रहती है कि 15 days में आपको नहीं सामान पसंद आया, आप वापस ले जाइए. Even this is an attribute which is important. So what happened? Nirma immediately captured a market share. HLL got a big jolt. 20% of the market share of HLL went away from a country like India. आज भारत से यदि 20% का मार्केट शेयर निकल जाए HLL, तो HLL तो हिलेगा. यार भारत में इतनी पॉपुलेशन है, तो 20% मार्केट शेयर निकल गया, बड़ा झटका लगा इनको. बट दे केम आउट विद अ कंपटीशन फॉर निर्मा, बट इट वाज टू लेट. जब तक आप कंपटीशन में आएंगे, यू आर ऑलरेडी आउट फ्रॉम द मार्केट. But the market share was already out, very difficult to penetrate today. And today, Nirma is also not there. But I see that the Kanpur company, Gadi detergent, is there in the lower strata. Gadi is there with almost 20% share, the same category. But HLL learned its lessons there. It did a similar exercise in Brazil. What it did was, it went with a low price detergent on its own, just not to get another jolt in Brazil or some other countries for that matter. Because Brazil is also a developing country like us. So this is what was a very important example there. Now, to go into these examples, we have got a lot of attributes here in the examples. Like, so I will pose a simple question on a person who is going to a temple and offering some apples. एक आदमी है, a person has got some apples in hand, X number of apples. He goes to the temple, he offers half of the apple he has and half an apple. He comes out, again offers half of what he has remaining and half an apple. फिर एक मंदिर जाता है, तीसरी मंदिर जाता है, वैसे ही करता है. Half of what he has and half an apple. Then he goes to the fourth temple and he offers half of what he has and half an apple. Finally, at the fourth temple, when he comes out, he had nothing in his hand. So my question is that how many apples did he have initially? The person went to 4 temples. Every temple he offered half of what he had plus half an apple. The fourth temple, when he came out, it was 0. So what is the answer? What is the starting point? How many apples did he have? Very simple. So you can write your answers in the chat box. I'll tell our resource team there to inform me. So if you can write the answers, I'll come back to this. I want to come back to the other ideas in that meanwhile. We can go to the other ideas. So see this project conception, other ideas, like it can be from can be from your skills, resources available there. Why don't we find steel plants in a place where there is no raw materials? Why do we find steel mills in Chota Nagpur area? Because there is market, there is the inputs available. The steel sector is such sector where the raw material to output ratio is 5:1. तो मैं 5 टन का इनपुट लगाऊंगा तो मुझे 1 टन का इनपुट मिलेगा. Definitely, my unit has to be near the raw material zone. The Chota Nagpur area covering Jharkhand, Odisha, parts of West Bengal a little bit, and Chhattisgarh has got most of these steel mills. When steel authority started off, it looked into this area only, basically. So we have Delhi Met Mumbai corridor, उसके बगल में जितने ancillaries हैं. आप मारुति जब start किया गुड़गांव में, not only in Gurgaon, Gurugram, but also Baneshwar, Faridabad, all ancillary units came up very fast. So this is where another sector which can come up. There can be clusters. You can study from imports, consumption abroad, like all these consumer durables, what we are getting, what we use basically from the abroad, we are using, imbibing them from there. Sometimes you also get from the government side. So in the government side, you have got the idea sometimes that this project is good, this is not good. Many times in our when we were going to the financial institutions, they used to suggest us also that this project is good, sir, you can go with this because I have found this person to be very good. So these are things which are happening. Further, you are aware that possibility of takeover or reviving a security is also a good source of idea. You have heard of Lakshminarayan Mittal, who had taken over a unit in Indonesia, 1976, and that did a great success for him. For him, it was a great success. And you must have heard of Indorama Group. They had a petrochemicals investment in 2000, early 2000, I remember. So they had taken 75% stake from the government of Nigeria, the petrochemical sector, spending some $225 million. So the $225 million, they had, I think, from that $225 million, they earned $200 million in the next year. Just imagine your payback period to be 1 year, maybe 1.5 years. So what I heard from the people there who were working, that they made money like 200 million, but almost all the investment came back. But suddenly they made a lot of investment there to the extent of 1.2 billion later on. And they finally had a big unit there. And it was a big township there. And all sites, the food sort of thing was there for security purposes. Because Nigeria was a place, was a difficult area. Now you learn from new technical developments also, invitation from other projects. You also, an entrepreneur, as a local entrepreneur, the single individual person, you can have hobbies, skills, passions, which can determine your idea. The actors, for example, they have got some skills. They can go into that sector. That is what recently I read somewhere that Shraddha Kapoor, the actress, started a startup called Palamaranas on the jewelry brand reviving, something like that. Or she did something like that. Whereas it's not a guarantee that this is a success. Amitabh Bachchan started Amitabh Bachchan Corporation Limited and it was a big flop. He went bankrupt. Big scenario, big difficult scenario for him. Finally, he came out of the trap from his own skills when KBC was launched. That is where, the skills comes into picture. But this is what sometimes it happens that the skills or your hobbies or your passion are very important for your success. Is there any answer to the question we had regarding the temple? Ranaji, any question? Any answer is there? Any answer is there?
Sir, we don't have any question right now.
No answer right now. I thought I was presuming that तो हम लोग को जब पूछा था एक्सेलराई में भी प्रोफेसर ने बहुत मुश्किल से 1-2 आंसर ही थे हम लोग के. Anyway, that professor was great. He taught us a project called New Product Development. And see, what we go here is we go by backward integration only. So what happens is, आप जो प्रोजेक्ट कर रहे हैं उसका बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन करिए. आपके पास प्रोजेक्ट ए बी सी मार्केट में है, उसके एट्रीब्यूट है से एक्स वाई जेड एम एन पी पी क्यू आर, उसमें ए बी सी कुछ भी और जोड़ दीजिए. तो आपके जो प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, तो आपके जो सॉरी प्रोडक्ट्स हैं उसके एट्रीब्यूट्स हैं. तो एट्रीब्यूट से आप वापस एट्रीब्यूट पे जाइए. On the attributes you choose which attribute is not there in the market, what you want to add, and what existing attribute is good. From there you drive a product and come out with the product. That can help you to decide on a new product. That was called a new product development. That means I'm going backward. From the attribute side, I'm coming out with a new product. So I'm going backward and then coming forward. Similarly, the temple question, when I come out of the fourth temple, I've got nothing in my hand. So when I've got nothing in my hand, that means I've got zero. When I went before the fourth temple, before I entered the fourth temple, I had only one apple, because half of one is half and half an apple, one. And you go on backwards from there, or back to front. 1 into 2 plus 1, it becomes 3, 1, 3, 7, like that. आपके पास थर्ड टेम्पल जाने के पहले 3 थे, 3 का आधा 1.5 plus half 2 you offered, so you are left with 1. So 7, 3 के बाद 7, 7 is 15, 5 temple also 31, like that it goes on. Very simple, but what you use here is you go backward. आपने जो लास्ट टेम्पल गए वहां से स्टार्ट किया आपने, वैसे ही प्रोडक्ट के केस में when new product is being taken up, you took it to the attributes which are there, and then from the back side you are going to the attributes. So you are getting into the project. Okay. So this is just what you are seeing in the slide. The depiction of the idea can come from anywhere, and some of this is listed. It is not a full list, it is an indicative list. This is regarding the stages in the idea part, I mean the conception part. Before you can have a look on this, and then we go ahead with the next stage, which is called a pre-feasibility stage or prima facie viability. Prima facie viability, this is basically the stage where is it there already, Rajanji? The first and foremost factor in case of pre-feasibility study, the consistency with corporate objectives. Consistency with corporate objectives. As I told you that the passion, the individual person's passion, personality, that also is part of it. You see, Nirma, when I was telling you, Nirma had got the core competencies of detergent. They ventured into other things. So they did not have the core competencies there. So if you don't go into your core competencies, the likelihood of failing is there. So you have to stick to the core competencies of the company to be successful. So this is very important. And this has to be your focus area, that you have to be there. Further, the next point is consistency with the governmental priorities. That means if the government has got some thrust areas, I cannot go against the government. Remember this. I cannot go against the government's thrust area. If I want to do a project, I have to choose, I should choose rather what is good, what is being thrust area for the government. So the promoters must try and adhere to the policies of the government. And in our case in India, we have got the central government with some thrust areas. We have got state governments having each industrial policy and thrust. You have to cater to both. You have to see the governmental regulations, environmental regulations. You cannot go against that. You cannot make an industry near Taj Mahal. You cannot make an industry near a temple. You cannot make an industry near a school or a village. It has to be away from that place. So the criteria is very important. Next very important point of this feasibility study, the availability of inputs. You can see there. So for any industry to be successful, there has to be an availability of input. I mean, the inputs should be there and regularly available. And further, the next point you see by market, adequacy of market. So anything for that matter, for any industry to be successful, the input is must, and the non-inputs in the desired quantity, the required quantity should be there and regularly available. Today, you see the EV sector is suffering from what? The rare earth magnet. Why? Because China has put an embargo on this from April 25. Now you understand with this embargo, Japan, Suzuki company has stopped manufacturing Swift. Our companies, auto companies, are telling the government that you again license with China and get the rare magnets, which are vital component for EV sector. So if this is not coming within this month, I mean the EV sector will have certainly some stoppage in their production. So the input is very important factor there. As I told you earlier also, that input, for example, for the steel sector, why Chota Nagpur has got this area? Because inputs. So this input is a very important factor. Further, the markets. If you got adequacy of market, nothing like it. So you have to forecast when you're putting up an industry. You have to forecast a minimum 5, 10, 15 years down the line. What will be the demand? What is the existing supply? What is the projected supply? What will be the demand supply gap? See, finally everything revolves on demand supply gap. आपके जो pricing criteria सब आते हैं, सब demand supply gap पे आते हैं. आप जब when you buy a flight air ticket also, you see the demand supply gap. Why in Diwali time the flights are higher cost? Supply is limited to the same extent, demand is more. So something like that. The demand supply is very important in any sector. So this is where you need to address that whether my industry is able to tap into the demand supply gap or not. When Maruti was the production, was the auto sector in India, it had got more than 80-85% share. I'm talking about 80s. But when Tata's brought in their first car, the Indica, it had to get some share, otherwise it would have been viable. So the government gave some incentive, the master government gave incentives a little bit to some extent. But the state that time was this incentive and other things. So it went in and it got on today. So Tata Motors is there. Today we have seen the local company Mahindra is also there. So these people are there today because they're able to compete now. Now Maruti's market share is to the extent of 15%. So you see adequacy of market, garnering some market share is very important. Next point, reasonableness of cost. I should be able to produce the product, whatever I have got, at some reasonable cost. Otherwise, I will not be able to compete in the market. I have to see when I am starting a new product, I have no experience of that line. I have to have a competition with the existing unit. I need that cost factor there very much important because unless I have that cost control there, I cannot compete with it. So the reasonableness of cost is very important factor. And finally, the risk level. See the risk level. Every person has got a risk level, a risk appetite. I might have 100 rupees in my pocket, but I might say 100, whatever 100 million you can say, 100 crores you can say, but I may not be able to put a 100 crore project. So my risk appetite is not. I may have 1 crore in my pocket, but I can put 100 crore project. My risk appetite is too high. Generally, it is told that more risk, more gain, maybe more loss also. Less risk, less gain. That is what happens. So again, the risk level is very important from any industry as such. Because risk factor is always there in a new industry. For that factor, any service sector also. So whether you're putting up a MSME or a macro or any sector, medium sector, scale sector, the risk factor is always there. As an entrepreneur, as a promoter, I don't. I go for the project basically, and I want more return because of the risk cost. तो मैं तो आराम से मेरा पास पैसा है मैं बैंक में डाल दूं एफडी का इंटरेस्ट मिल जाएगा मुझे रिस्क लेस है प्रोवाइडेड द बैंक इज गुड दैट इज पॉसिबल बट आई डोंट वांट दैट आई वांट टू टेक द रिस्क आई वांट टू गेट मोर प्रॉफिट्स दैट इज व्हाट माय नेचर इज if I want to summarize all these things all the viability factors I have got this project rating index project rating index basically gives me the summarized picture of all the parameters. See, all the parameters I put in, and I get a summary of the thing. So, for example, the inputs, availability of inputs, which I was talking of, I put all these things, and I get all these factors: technical know-how, determinants of cost, marketing, all these factors I put in one side, and then I weight these things. The slide is not changing, Rana ji.
Yes, sir.
ये जो प्रोजेक्ट रेटिंग इंडेक्स आया नहीं इसमें,
हाँ जी सर, प्रोजेक्ट रेटिंग
तो कैसे दिया है?
सर, ये प्रोजेक्ट रेटिंग इंडेक्स
चालू किया ना, दिख क्यों नहीं रहा है? मैं स्टार्ट से करूँगा फिर आया भी
सर, फाइन सर, फाइन.
ठीक. You see here all the parameters I have put on one side. मैंने पैरामीटर लगा दिया, अब मैं फैक्टर वेट दे रहा हूँ 0 to 10. You see here I am putting factor weight 0 to 10 and the rating here. Okay, so I come down with a factor, मैं रेटिंग दे रहा हूँ उसको, मैं मैक्सिमम कितना दूंगा? 10 दूंगा, मिनिमम कितना दूंगा? 0 दूंगा. फाइनली इफ आई हैव सम फैक्टर वेट हियर, मैं चलो इसको 20% देता हूँ, तो 20% का फिर रेटिंग करूंगा तो उसके हिसाब से मेरा आएगा. तो दिस 20% I wait here, I put rating here 20%, I put 10%, like that I put everywhere, I put this rating, and then I get a controlled, a compiled score finally. Say, instead of 1, I get say 0.9, 0.75, 0.6, 0.5. तो मुझे एक मिलेगा, मुझे यहाँ पर फिगर मिलेगा. In this I get a figure. This one, the total will come to say less than 1. The total जो 1 है ना, ये less than 1 हो जाएगा. So when I get this less than 1, it may be 0.9, it can be 0.8, it can be 0.7, 0.6. There has to be benchmark level where I want to decide कि मैं इसके नीचे नहीं जाऊंगा, तो मैं इसके ऊपर ही रहूंगा. तो देयर इज अ बेंचमार्क लेवल कि 70% हो कि 60% हो, उसके ऊपर होने से ही मैं प्रोजेक्ट करूंगा. ये फॉर एग्जांपल, वेरी सिंपल एग्जांपल which I generally equate with, if you are choosing your spouse, again there are factors like smartness, simplicity, adaptability, any compatibility will be there with you or not, presentable है कि नहीं, complexion है जो भी है, और so many things, any special talent is there with her or him. So that thing, when you're looking for your spouse, you have all these criteria in mind, and all these criteria again weigh in your mind. आपको 100% मिलेगा क्या? Very difficult to get 100% in real life also. So आपको basically, when I have all the parameters decided for the project, I make all this combine into a slide, one index I make, and that index I combine all these things and remove my bias. मेरी बायस कुछ हद तक रिमूव हो जाती है. यहाँ पर मैं प्रोजेक्ट करने के लिए बहुत आतुर हूँ. मैं एज ए प्रोमोटर आई वांट टू डू द प्रोजेक्ट, बट देन this will remove certainly. If I go by this project method, I remove my bias from that extent, and I have got a benchmark level, say 80% or 75%. उसके बाद ही मैं करूँगा. Similarly, when you look for your spouse, you don't get 100%. अब देखिए 75%, 80% आप check करते. So this is what I mean to say, that we need to have some filters there. तो आपका कुछ फिल्टर लगा के आपने बायस हटाया, आपने 10 प्रोजेक्ट लाए थे, चूज किए थे स्टार्टिंग में, आपने प्री स्टडी में जब आए, you got the 10 projects here. From this, when you put into all the parameters, you saw the factors, and then you are deciding that okay, now out of this 10, I choose 3, 4, whatever. तो आप देख रहे हैं कि इसमें आपने ये फैक्टर लगा के आपने कम कर दिया. Then finally you go for detailed filter. There's another filters I can say. एक और फिल्टर आप लगा सकते हैं जो कि मैं स्मार्ट बोलता हूँ. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल, when we have goals, we usually have smart goals. बोलते हैं स्मार्ट गोल्स होते हैं, तो स्मार्ट गोल्स में वो एस का क्या होता है? स्पेसिफिक, एम का मेजरेबल. So the smart goals are there. Similarly, we have got smart filters here for my project selection. From S, I say strategic. This is not changing much. S is strategic. M is marketing viability, whether the project is marketingly, it is viable or not. A is adaptable, like the project cannot be static. It has to change. Maybe that project changes out. It can expand. It has to diversify maybe sometimes. Are the resources available, as I discussed earlier? Reasonableness of cost, regulatory compliances, all these things. All inputs available and regular. The R is this. And T is technical feasibility. With that, there is a time frame. For any project, I've got, it's a time bound. The time frame is there. I have to project complete the time. So if I have the smart filters for selection of project, it guides me to a great extent. So you see the strategic marketing, adaptable resources available with me, reasonableness of cost also, technical feasibility. So once it passes through this, all these filters and all these smart filters, I can go for the detailed financial evaluation also. And then my precedence takes that financial precedence, financial feasibility takes over, and which project to take. Now, if I've got 4 projects or 5 projects in hand, and I go by the smart filters, finally I see which is giving me the highest NP or PI on that basis. Depending on the resources I have, I go and decide which projects to choose. But again, friends or my colleagues, और जो भी सुन रहे हैं, इट इज नॉट अ गारंटी कि आप इतने फिल्टर लगा के, इतने ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग करके आपने प्रोजेक्ट किया और मैं 100% आपको गारंटी दूं कि सक्सेस होगा. द प्रोबेबिलिटी इज सर्टेनली हाई, बट देयर इज नो गारंटी दैट इट विल बी सक्सेस. रिमेंबर दिस. ऐसा भी होता है कि प्रोमोटर ने कुछ नहीं किया, ऐसा उसके मन में आइडिया आया, वो ना कुछ सिलेक्शन किया, ना किसी से बात किया, उसने प्रोजेक्ट कर दिया और वो सक्सेस हो गया. इट इज पॉसिबल दैट वो सक्सेस हो सकता. So these things are definitely the future thing, futuristic. I cannot guarantee that you will be successful there. There's a lot of changes there. Okay. The next thing is, इसमें मुझे याद आती है एक प्रोमोटर था, उसने एक बिल एक यूनिट करना था. Can you do a unit and बोला मैं बोला यार ये यूनिट is not good, lot of competition, you don't have captive market and it is not a viable unit as of now. बट उसने बोला प्रदीप बाबू, अरे वो मेरे कंपटीशन में 4 लोग हैं, मैं तो अकेला हूँ, प्रोजेक्ट करना है, फाइनेंस करा सकते हैं कि बताइए. मतलब फाइनेंस तो करा सकते हैं, बट डोंट वरी, वी विल गो हेड, डोंट वरी. मतलब आप यदि प्रोजेक्ट नहीं चला तो क्या करेंगे आप? मतलब डोंट वरी, वी विल, अब मत सोचिए कुछ भी, मैं प्रोजेक्ट करना है मुझे जैसे भी. मतलब क्या करेंगे? बोला नहीं प्रोजेक्ट नहीं चलेगा तो गोडाउन में बैडमिंटन खेलूंगा यार, बैडमिंटन कोर्ट रहेगा. कुछ सालों बाद मैं देखा एक्चुअली बैडमिंटन खेल रहा है वहां पर. ऐसा भी होता है कि आप अपने जिद पे पूरी प्रोजेक्ट कर लो, वायबिलिटी स्टडी नहीं करो तो आपका ऐसा हो सकता है. On the contrary, when I was working with PwC in Calcutta, it took me 1 month to get or compile the data for one pre-feasibility study of hospital to make a good hospital like Bellevue. That time Bellevue was the one operating there. तो उस टाइम की हॉस्पिटल करने के लिए मुझे हमने लगाया. हम लोग दौड़े भागे, उसने कहा कि तुम यार डाटा नहीं देता तो ब्लड टेस्ट का डाटा चाहिए तो ब्लड तुम टेस्ट करा लेना, कोई इश्यू नहीं है. तो 1 month it took us for to make that compilation and then we presented the time of AC viability report. So it is definitely a need today in the society when you make these things. आप कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट करें, you must do it. I don't say that you go by your whims and fancies always, but you must go definitely with a systematic method. If successful, the chance of being success is better. And then only you go for the detailed view. So this is this thing. Sometimes the pre-feasibility study itself, आपको ऐसा लग जाता है, in the pre-feasibility study you get an idea, आपको एक आइडिया मिल जाती है यार ये प्रोजेक्ट बहुत अच्छा है. You get an inkling or you know that this project will definitely be success. You got a green signal, don't want to wait for the detailed feasibility. The first mover advantage is there. So you go ahead with the project and then you implement it. So not necessarily that I wait for the detailed feasibility. I can go and implement the project. But remember, as a promoter, remember the proposal, when you go to a bank, each bank has got its different lending model. Each institution, each bank, each lending institution has got its own methods, criteria, appraisal. उनका कुछ sectors हैं जो ठीक हैं, कुछ नहीं है. They will go by their own methods. So whenever you go to a bank or for that matter any institution, you must understand that it is definitely a sector where they will, the first area only they will help you out. If it is a sector in which they are not happy with, they will not help. They will not finance. So as an entrepreneur, when you are putting up the project, you must remember all the things. And you must also do the due diligence कि क्या होना चाहिए कि मैं ये XYZ बैंक जा रहा हूँ, ABC बैंक जा रहा हूँ, इस पे जा रहा हूँ, तो I should know which bank will do. Then there are potential exposure norms. The potential exposure norms are given by our central bank, RBI. Potential exposure norms are in many ways. Lending पे है, on the other criteria is also there. Industry exposure norms are also there by RBI. RBI does not tell you to focus each bank. They give a guideline that I cannot put 100% of my money in one industry. They've got sectoral. Cap. One company, I know the Tatas are doing very well. I cannot put 100% of my bank's money into one company, Tata. So there is a company-wise limit. So there is industry-wise exposure norms. Lending policy, there is this is the trust is given by the RBI, the potential exposure norms which you have to follow. Then you have got industry-related risk factors which you have known, you have got your fingers with. Supposing steel industry has not been doing well in your portfolio, you will not try to enter steel sector. So then you go into the other sectors. Then you see that okay, the promoter, you know that your credentials are good, you know that feasibility is done properly, and there is a margin. And it is meeting the governmental priority and policy. With this in mind, you know that okay, this is possible, and I can go ahead. So I can go ahead further, and then you go ahead with that project. That's clear. Recently, the new MSME, this policy of the government, they've given a lot of thrust to the macro and MSME sector. One of the main thing I would like to point out is the CGT MSE scheme, which is lending to the units at without collateral. See, generally, when we go to a bank, I mean to say it is basically with collateral. We say it is debt funding, basically with collateral funding. Some collateral is there, then only you get the funds. Otherwise, very difficult to get them. So, but CGT MSE scheme is there. Banks are a little hesitant to give the money because they do not have a very good track record on this. But somehow or the other, 75% of it is covered. But for the promoter, it means extra cost of interest. But he doesn't have to. He is saved from the botheration of collateral. So he is saved from the botheration of collateral, and the quantum has gone up drastically from 5 crores to 10. So this is what is a great change in the MSME growth. There are other things which you can read through, and you can go ahead. And another thing which has happened is for very micro people also they have helped. This credit card scheme they are coming with micro people. For SC, STs, women, etc. They will support 5 lakhs and terms up to 2 crores. Many sectors of industry have been identified give reduction in the charges. These are some of the improved access to credit as an entrepreneur when you are entering into MSME sector. You want money. This is one of the things which can happen. Further, now I'm coming to the next stage, the detailed feasibility study. This is the last stage of the stages. So in the stage of detailed feasibility, there are 3 parts you see here. The technical feasibility, the marketing feasibility, and the financial feasibility. The detailed feasibility covers all the three aspects. The detailed feasibility is covering first my technical aspect. So unless my unit is not technically viable, I cannot go ahead. First part is my technical feasibility. Second part is my marketing feasibility. Third is financial. Usually I do it like that. First is technical because for example, as suppose you are a contractor, you are bidding for some contract. When they are evaluating the contract, they first see the technical bid. So whether you are technically qualified or not, that is it. So that is where the technical bid is important. So as a contractor, you are first qualifying for the technical part, then only they look into the other part. Similarly, for an industry as such, we put into the factor of factors of technical factors. See the factors, technical factors. I'm just putting here all the technical factors. The technical factors. Okay. We see the manufacturing process. What are the technical parameters here? The manufacturing process, the size of the plant, location, selection of plant and machinery, the procurement of plant and machinery. Also. These are very important things which are important. Now, these are technical parameters. Remember, generally we say the larger the size of the plant, the more economies of scale will flow in. But that means that I have to bring in more margin, more finance, more collateral maybe. So for an MSME, there is a limit. You got some margin, can't go beyond that. So according to your needs, according to the capacity, according to the finance available, according to the resources, you have to choose the optimum size. If you choose a very small size, it may be difficult for you to compete with a bigger unit. So the optimum size of the unit is very important. But do remember that generally the larger the size, the better. With this in mind, the manufacturing process, the size of the plant is very. Now, the location of the plant. It is a fantastic, it's a very important part. You must have tested all the parameters which are required for having the project there. Example, it is not that you will not be able to get the electric grid there. It's a faraway remote village, and electric lines are not there. So getting into that project, that location means that electric connection can be done there. So you must have the access to the electrical lines there. It is possible. It is not possible. It is essential that you must test all the essential parameters, like water is available there or not. One person, one unit nearby place, they had put up the unit without testing water. Finally, they found that water is not available. They ran borewells, they dug borewells, but no water was coming. Finally, what happened? They took big borewell, say 2 kilometers away, and getting water was a cost for them from that unit. Since they had already put up the unit, the location was such that it was very difficult for them to come. The location of the project definitely is very important, and I can go on and on with the other parameters also. But then I'm limiting here on this technical part, and I'm going to the marketing appraisal of marketing viability. What are the factors there? As I told you earlier also, that marketing, in the case of marketing, the demand supply gap is very important. I should be able to get the forecasting of my demand done. Supply position existing, I should have with me. With the existing supply forecasted, existing demand supply forecasted, the demand supply gap should be there. With this thing in mind, I should be able to know how much can I tap from the market. The demand supply gap is very important. Then further, at what price should I enter in the market? Whether that pricing is suitable or not. What distribution I should have. With all these things in mind, it is possible that I can run the unit. I should get some market share. But Tata entered into market, the auto sector, they definitely wanted some market share. When Hyundai wanted to come to the market, to the auto market, they wanted some 5%, 10% market share. So unless you have that minimum market share, you will not be able to survive. So this is how it happens that marketing also, you have to go and into that proportion and then finally decide how much share can you get. On that basis only you are able to proceed. And you see the distribution pricing, Nirma lost out later on due to this factor also. Pricing was there, but distribution, other things were not there. The next feasibility, the financial feasibility, which means a lot of time and we do a lot of details. But financial feasibility, basically here I will just tell you that it means from starting from the cost of the project to the means of finance to the projections. How do you project? How you get the income? What kind of profit I can get? And, starting from the projections, I get the profits, I get the net profit, I get the cash flows, I make the projected balance sheet, projected cash flows. I can get the financial summary. So finally, if I have got a term loan, I should know my term loan repayment capacity also. My financial soundness is possible by my DSCR. That is very important again. Okay. Further, there is again this financial appraisal at different ratios also. So you have to have the ratios of EPS, maybe the break-even points can be there, the sensitivity analysis can be there. The debt equity ratio is a constraint also. It has to be within the norms of the banks or the lending institution. And a lot of other things can be there. The fixed assets coverage can be there. So when you go for the financial appraisal, a lot of it's endless there. And each bank has got their own model. Remember that as a promoter, when you are applying to for the MSME, when you're applying for the project, the banks have got their own models, own formats. Generally, there is one CMA model which is applicable to all banks. But that CMA is slightly changed over by each bank, a little differently. The Union Bank may have different way, State Bank may have different way. Maybe the private bank like ICAI can be having a different. The CMA data has to be done in proper way. This appraisal part. So this has to be done in any case. So you need to have this done properly. Okay. So when you are doing this, our caution here is that as a CA did not certify the CMA data. Okay. You are not to certify the CMA data because CMA data is certainly which is in future. It has got some forecasts. Also, when you do just chartered accountant, when you are doing projections or a small term loan, cash credit changes or some increase in the limits also, and the bank is asking you for CMA data, you will prepare the CMA data on behalf of the company. But definitely, it is not desirable that you sign it. Our institute does not allow us to sign the projections. And the banks have got their own credit risk rating model. Each bank has got its different credit risk rating model, which is invariably being used today. And each bank has got basically a benchmark level. And they term it different way. Somebody is putting it like SB1, SB2, like State Bank in that manner. They will not fund you if it's SB10 above, supposing. They have got a benchmark level. So you have this credit risk rating done by every bank. But let me tell you, friends, here, that this rating model is not necessarily correct. As a chartered accountant, you must understand that this is certainly done by some agency. Some say McKinsey has come in there, or somebody has some other consulting company has got in there, and some person or some MBA has joined there, or some chartered accountant is also there, and they have gone by their own. Not necessarily that is the correct way. For example, in case of a service sector, like hospital or hotel sector, is current ratio relevant? No, not at all. Because current ratio comes to you with your current assets and liabilities. But in case of hospital, hotel, units, there is no such current assets. No such current liabilities also. But as per the definition of current liabilities, we have the term loans repayable within 1 year as current liability. So what happens? So what happens there is when I have current liabilities as term loan component, definitely my current issue has to be less than 1. With that in mind, it is difficult for me. Remember this. As a promoter, I cannot take finance as much as I want. Debt is cheaper than equity. If I say the sources of funds, it's basically two sources, debt and equity. Debt is cheaper source. Why? Why is debt cheaper? Because debt is on the basis of interest cost, which is I into 1 minus T. So it is tax deductible. My interest cost is not very high compared to my equity cost. The risk-free rate of risk-free rate of deposit today, supposing after the reduction of repo maybe 6%, 6.5%, my debt can be available to me at 8% or 8.5%. That means 2% variation only. Whereas my 1 minus T can be more than 2%. My debt itself is cost of debt itself is less than equity free rate. Cost of equity is not only my free deposit rate. It's also the risk component there. My cost of equity is much higher than that. I am taking care of the risk component. So it is risk-free rate plus the market risk premium, which makes equity cost very high. So definitely as a promoter, I would like to have maximum possible debt. But if I am putting 100 million project, can I get 100 million from the bank? No. Because there is a margin requirement, there's some constraints. I cannot get 100 million because there is a debt equity ratio. If the bank has got a debt equity ratio 1.5:1, that means I can go for 100 million, I can get 60 million. The bank has got a debt equity ratio. If they want to deter or restrict the sector, say 1:1 debt equity of 100 million, I can get 50 million only. The debt equity ratio comes into play there, wherein I get the constraint of debt equity is there. So debt equity can be a constraint. Okay. Similarly, margin requirement is a constraint. Finally, the DSCR is a constraint. The DSCR is a constraint. Why? Because it gives me the ability of the repayment of the debt. It tells me overall what is my possibility of the debt being repaid. So these are the constraints which are happening there, and on that basis only I will get loan. So as a promoter, as a CA, also you can understand, you can tell your client that these ratios are very important. This is the criteria the bank follows, and then only I'll get the money. So many times it happens that the promoters may have got 100 million project. It is possible sometimes that they are billing higher, say 100 to 120 kar diya. You are not aware. And the 100 becomes 120 and they are able to get more funds. बाद में आपको बताएगा वो कि नहीं मैंने सर ले लिया था मैं चलो सक्सेस हो गया. But if they don't tell you correctly, that also is not correct. You should know one of my case like that, one person was putting up a rice mill. उसने मुझे बोला, मैंने कहा इतना मार्जिन तेरे पास होना चाहिए. उसने मुझे बाद में बोला 4 साल बाद कि सर मेरे पास इतना मार्जिन नहीं था, आपने बोला इतना होना चाहिए, लेकिन मैंने ऐसा किया. Anyway, that was the different story. He was success, but had he not been a success, it would have been a wrong. And this credit risk rating is partly financial, partly not. That is also a constraint. These are some constraints which we need to follow in any case for all the times and to get the debt component as such. So is this clear? So I should have this constraint in life in any case. And Swami Vivekananda says that on project implementation, when you choose a project, before I shift on to the implementation and planning part, this was the basics for the stages and the detailed part. He says, Swami says that take up one idea and make that one idea your life. Think of it, dream of it, live on that idea. Let the brain, muscles, nerves, every part of your body be full of that idea. And just leave every other idea alone. This is the way to success. एक बार की बात है जब वो स्वामी विवेकानंद पढ़ रहे थे, अध्ययन कर रहे थे कुछ, अचानक वो इतना अध्ययन में डूबे हुए थे कि लोगों को मालूम पड़ा कि वो गिर गए हैं, मतलब बेहोश हो गए थे. मालूम पड़ा कि वो 3 दिन तक बिना खाए पिए वो चीज में लगे हुए. But his concentration was so high, his focus was so much that he went continuously 3 days into that subject of studies, and 3 days he continuously went on. उसके बाद वो बेहोश हो गया क्योंकि खाया पिया नहीं था. सब लोगों को मालूम पड़ा कि 3 दिन पहले इसने ये किया था. Just imagine, that is what he says, that you have to have that idea, make your life, and then only you proceed. Otherwise, it is not possible. So that is the idea of Swami Vivekananda. Now, friends, with this idea in mind, we go into the planning stage. The planning, organizing, implementation part. If you are certain, see, this is a very difficult scenario again. If I say कि मैं ये काम पहले करूंगा, ये काम बाद में करूंगा, ये काम नहीं करूंगा, तो ये very difficult scenario. As a promoter, when I put up a factory, as a promoter, you know it's very important that he has to have so many things to be done. यदि वो promoter पैसा रहना चाहिए, liability is there, he has to put up the unit. He should know that capital investment has to go and permissions have to come. So he has to have the permissions there. Now, supposing I am putting up a project in a remote village area. So my concern, authority concern, is that village panchayat. तो पंचायत का मुझे एनओसी मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा, इट्स an essential factor. If I am into a development, like say BMC में, बॉम्बे में, into BMC में, तो BMC का मुझे अप्रूवल मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा. This is very important. So that authority which will give me my permission is very important. So that is possible or not. So this is what is required. That I should have the permissions, clearances from the desired person. मुझे इंडस्ट्री करना है तो मुझे मालूम है कि मैं अभी मतलब कंपटीशन माइंड मेरा कंफ्यूज है. I would need to know as an entrepreneur, I want to do proprietorship, partnership or public company or private company. जो कंपनी करना है तो प्राइवेट करें, कंपनी करे, प्राइवेट करे, पब्लिक करे, वन पर्सन कंपनी करे. बैंक से पैसा लें, एनबीएफसी से लें, प्राइवेट सेक्टर से लें, उससे लें. So many questions are there in the mind of the promoter. Implementation schedule कैसा रहेगा? Submission of documents क्या रहेगा? So all these things are there. The nutshell, you can see this. आपको ये दिख रहा है project implementation schedule, planning to implementation. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. Is it clear? So many things to be done. It's not that I am deterring you, but which to do first, which to do second. Again, a very difficult criteria. What to choose first? Just have a glance to the slide. Just have a glance here. I'll go one by one. A lot of queries I have in my mind. As I told you, project planning. Whether permission will be available or not. Whether the timelines to be done of all activities possible or not. Whether the promoter if he's got an adequate margin or not. Whether the bank will be willing to fund or not. Whether such projects are existing already there or is a new project. Whether you have tested the suppliers or the vendors or the vendors' credentials are there proper. Similar business is already there, explored already by you. The procedure to go ahead. Many queries are there. So now it is not a water jacket compartment that I have to go this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It can be in a many, it's like a circle, I can say. It is like a circle. Like I've got each different things. Like I have to take permission from the panchayat, or maybe from the development authority, maybe from the municipal corporation. I have to take the electric permission, whether the required load will be available or not. I have to apply for Udyam, I have to apply for Pollution Control Board, I have to float a company or a partnership. So many things are there in my mind. I have to register for GST, I have to register for income tax, I have to register for my license if it is required, if I am into that sector. So many things can come in mind for what to choose first and next. It is like a circle, friends. Each link is important there. जो चेन होता है ना, चेन में कई लिंक होते हैं, तो ऐसे ही ये जो प्रोजेक्ट आप कर रहे हैं एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, इट गॉट different links for the MSME. As a chartered accountant, you should understand that each link is important, and the strength of my chain depends on the weakest link. जो चेन की weakest link है, वही मेरी चेन की strength है. Any criteria where you are lacking should not be weak. यदि मुझे परमिशन नहीं मिलने का है, बहुत difficult है. One such criteria which I found was एक यूनिट को साइटिंग क्राइटेरिया में प्रॉब्लम हो गई. It had to be 500 meters away from the highway. It was 400 meters away. Difficult to get the permission. But sometimes you see people, large industries coming near the roads, they're getting the permission. The MSME is suffering, not getting the permission of siting criteria. And same thing you are seeing that large industries coming up near the roads, creating pollution, and the government is not able to. Government is giving the permission somehow or the other. As a small scale industry, we are getting this deterrent factor. कि हमको तो यार siting criteria पकड़ लिए हो, आप दे नहीं रहे हैं, but the big industry is flourishing there. So this is where the NMSME is into problems. Now the next question sometimes comes land cost. Whether I have to the land I should buy in the name of the company or the promoter. Whether I buy in the name of the promoter and lease it out to the company. कि क्या करूँ मैं? So many questions are there when I am putting up the project. Then I have to apply for Udyam. देखिए आपका form of organization. Whether you want to make a company, whether you want to make a proprietorship, whether you want to make a partnership has to be decided initially. तो आपका उद्यम अप्लाई होगा, आपका एनओसी अप्लाई होगा, आपके फॉर्मेलिटीज अप्लाई होंगे, आपके रजिस्ट्रेशन अप्लाई होंगे, तो आपको वो फॉर्म तो आपको तो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन फॉर्म तो लेना ही. तो यू हैव टू डिसाइड एंड द अर्लियर द बेटर. So it is a huge thing how to go ahead with the planning part, and you have to choose what to do first, second. But definitely, it is not that you can do all the things together. तो आप जरूर पता कर लीजिए कि एनओसी मिलेगा कि नहीं. मैं मुद्दे पे आया था मेन बात पे. आप जरूर से पता कर लीजिए कि वहाँ एनओसी मिलेगा कि नहीं. नंबर 1 पर आप जरूर से पता करिए बैंक आपका ये पैसा खुद का नहीं है पूरा. Don't have the full funding available with you. You need loans. Definitely whether the bank will fund you or not. So many times promoters come in, they want to go for a project. Sir, ये project मुझे I want to do the project. I've got 50 million. I want 50 more million. Will I get or not? If I get yes, if they say get the green signal, they go ahead. So this is a must. तो आपको बैंक पैसा देगा कि नहीं देगा, वो ये सब चीज मस्ट है. तो मिनिमम चीज आपके फॉर्म ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मस्ट. Then political scenario must. Remember that there was a political scenario. I'm talking about Tata Motors again. It's not the MSME, but a big case. But definitely is an important thing, which is very important in the case of any factory for that matter. There was a bad AM and a good AM. It is always told. There was a good ash and a bad ash, you can say. जो फैक्ट्री सिंगूर में लगने वाली थी वो उठ के चली गई सनन, क्योंकि वो वहां पॉलिटिकली मोटिवेशन होके उसने बंद करा. The factory was almost into production. उसके plant सब ready हो गए थे. All of a sudden they have to stop the production. They have to could not start the commercial production. Maybe 2 months or 3 months was there to start the commercial production. The whole unit of Nano had to shift to Gujarat, and that's what the Tata Motors MD told. There was a good AM, and we heard him one of the speeches in our institute at Bhubaneswar. He told openly there was a good AM and bad AM. And Modi was there in Gujarat helping him out. So that was the scenario that they had to shift and their organization cost was too high. Remember, friends, whenever you do an MSME also, any industry for that matter, आप यदि investment कर दिए तो वो backtrack नहीं करे. It is very difficult to come back out of it. Today, Tata Motors is still stuck with 1,500 crores of the land cost there. Though it can be sold off at a higher cost maybe, but still it is there. So whenever you are going for planning of a project, definitely you must see onto all those aspects. The next and the most important aspect is when you are planning the whole aspects of the project, implementation schedule, you think you don't go from present forward कि आज मैं ऐसे स्टेज पे हूँ, यहाँ से मैं ये काम करूँगा, मैं जमीन लूँगा, मैं I'll take the land, I'll order for my civil works, I'll do plant and machinery, I'll order for plant and machinery, the vendor will take so much time, and this, that, and all. And then I'll have my commercial production. But the best technology, the terminology here is think future backwards. That I should not go from present forward. Rather, I should have a deadline. My DCCO is fixed, say 31st December 2025. So from that day onwards, I come back to today. मुझे लॉक करनी मेरी एक्टिविटीज implementation schedule in that manner where I will start from that day on the blocking date, and from there I will go on to the current dates. So instead of present forward, I go to the next. This theory is brought in by my professor, and mentioned in our book also. My professor in XLRI, Parasar sir, was there. He was the former director of IIM Indore, and he very apt terminology here. This thing future backward. Now you can use this thing very much. When you do the implementation schedule, definitely, friends, like when you do the implementation schedule, you got a lot of activities listed down. I'm not going to the detailed list here, though it is attached to the slide. The implementation schedule will have starting from your permissions, clearances, to acquisition of land, land development. Like this, you list down all the activities, what you want to do to set up the MSME. I'm basically talking, when I'm talking of the industry, it is not a small industry, it's MSME, little bigger side. Okay. So you have got to acquire the land development, the civil works to be done. You get some contacts for civil works to be done. You get a contact tied up with somebody. You have to order for plant and machinery. You have to go for the installation of plant and machinery, the other equipment for that matter, and other fixed assets, the training of the personnel, hiring of the personnel, training them properly, then trial production, and finally DCCO, the date of commencement of commercial operations. The date of commencement of commercial operations is the final date. The unit is ready for setup, ready for commercial production. Now this is an indicative list again, friends. Again, I'm not going to the detailed list. See, I've attached the implementation schedule here, but I'm not going to the implementation schedule now. So paucity of time, which I can understand, we can go back there if required. Okay, so in the implementation schedule, now friends, I need to have certainly the detailed flowchart done properly. I should certainly have my flowchart done properly with the worksheet done. You can have the bar chart also done. So, and you should be a task master for that. Unless you are a good task master, it's very difficult to have your project done in the scheduled time. Remember this. Delhi Metro was one of the big projects done on time. Invariably, we find in our experience that we don't have such projects which are completed on time. We generally find the projects are delayed. एक project delay हुआ मतलब मुझे नुकसान हो रहा है. If I have got an implementation schedule of 1 year and I can reduce it to 11 months, एक महीना का extra profit और एक महीना का मेरी जो operating cost की जो interest cost of that term loan है, that period, I say, the period cost comes down. Definitely, if I'm able to cut down my implementation schedule, nothing like it. Now, this is something about the planning and all. Now, what documents? I'll rush through this. It is more of a information sharing here. What documents I need to submit? Okay. So, Udyam, KYC, detailed project like that. What documents I need to submit? So, this is very simple things which you are heard of. I don't think it will need much explanation, but you can understand that KYC is must. Today, when you go to a bank, the first thing you give is a KYC. The bank will do the KYC checking done and they will get a score. They will tell you, okay, sir, your KYC and all these things, credit score is there. You can go ahead. And your Udyam you must have done. You have done the You have already decided आपको पार्टनरशिप करना है, कंपनी करना है, पार्टनरशिप किए हैं आप, तो आपको डीड बनानी है. If you've done a partnership, the deed must be there, the deed must be registered. Okay, there is a register of firms in every state. So if that partnership is there, that is must. If the company is there, then the certificate of incorporation must have been issued by you. And today, when the company is formed today, it's very easy because you also get the PAN also, because you are applying along with that. You get all those things also. So definitely it is helpful to you. So these things are there, and then you get the green signal and you go ahead. Then you have to submit all the details of the land, factory land, building, plot, sketch, everything. All the layouts and the projections also. आपको जो प्रोजेक्शन है, आपके CMA डाटा है, वो भी आपको देना है. So आपके projections, the forecast of the year, and generally when we have a new project done, my term loan is repayable in say 10 years. I have to project all the projections for 10 years. उसके बाद तो मेरा term loan खत्म हो गया. So my projections of term loans are over. So then there is no problem at all. So this is the scenario that the projections should be at least for 10 years. So is there any doubt here? Next. So I have this again. I tell you again. This is an information sharing, and they can ask you. This is not a full list, indicative list. So NOC is available to you. Like when you are putting up the industry, there are so many NOCs available required. I was thinking when I was teaching at SPJ Singapore. Example. Then the institute, supposing I want the institute wants to set up a cafeteria, a small cafeteria there, they needed 28 NOCs of clearances from the government. Just imagine a small cafeteria in the institute to be done, and you need so many licenses. But Singapore was a country which is available, which is fast track, ease of doing business is great, so that was possible, and they used to get very fast. So that NOC was able to get, they were getting it. So that is possible. Okay. Now next is so the NOCs and available was there. I have to file with my company details, the certificate of incorporation, the memorandum and articles. Remember, when you are forming a company, the object clause should be done very properly. तो अपनी जो कंपनी की जो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं, वो उसमें ठीक से रहना ही चाहिए. For example, if your objective is not mentioned properly and you are doing something else, object clause something else in your memorandum, it is a difficult scenario. You must have that thing mentioned properly. That object clause should be very clearly done. Otherwise, difficult. So otherwise, again, you have to change your object clause. So you remember this, very difficult scenario. Then you have to submit the net worth of each promoters. जो promoter आपके हैं या directors हैं, promoters के net worth, the audited balance sheet of the enterprise, audited balance sheet of last year's associate concerns, certificate from other banks, quotations of plant and machinery, etc., like that. So it goes on. The list is endless. So, but just to go share through and rush through this, that you have to submit all these things. You have to send all the details of the and quotations not only from one vendor, maybe from more than 2, 3, and then you tell why you have chosen this. Maybe that you have not chosen L1, you've chosen L2 because it's a good service. So then you have to explain the banker or the lender that I have chosen this vendor because he is able to give me at lesser rate. At a better service. So it is L2. So I have to explain. I am the promoter. I am the promoter, supposing. So I have to know. I have to repay the loan of the bank. I choose the best possible vendor or not. So मेरी इच्छा रहेगी कि मुझे best possible vendor लेना ही है. That is what I meant to say. Then your details of they can ask you details of the plant process layout. आपकी manufacturing process का layout दीजिए मुझे, आप बोलेगा बैंक वाला. Plant approval जो आपका approval है, तो layout building का दीजिए बोलेगा. Or any orders you have in hand that they may ask you. So your list of vendors, list of buyers. तो जब भी आप जाते हैं, you definitely, if it is industry already there, so these things should be ready with you, suppliers and your buyers. The list should always be with you. So you should have that list with you. Top 5 suppliers, top 10 suppliers, from where you purchase. So all those things are very important. the banks can ask you more details. But like I told you that collateral is very important today. If I'm not going for CGT, MSc, no collaterals funding, then definitely I should have some collateral. The collaterals is definitely which is has to be valuation to be done. Collateral should have the legal clearance. So, a title information report that TIR to be done for the collateral securities is a very compulsory thing. So valuation of the collateral is very important. Live report is sometimes very important. The lender's independent engineers report, live report. It is not necessarily applicable to all macro sector also, but definitely it's applicable to many MSMEs. So live report is also very applicable to many people. So collateral security definitely there, and I should have all the details submitted there. So with this in mind, that I've got so much documents to be submitted, and further, I should have all the registrations also done properly. Like when they ask for Udyam, it's not that I get Udyam automatically. I must register in the online. Udyam मुझे चाहिए, पहले वो उद्योग आधार करते थे. It was earlier उद्योग आधार, now it is Udyam. The Udyam certificate I can get. I have to online. It's very fast. Today the scenario is such that when we used to make companies much earlier, it was all physical. हम लोग को memorandum article से लेके physically देना पड़ता था, फिर physically correction करना पड़ता था. Lots have changed. Now company can be formed in 3 days time, 1 day time, like that, very fast. Now, in this case of registrations, Udyog Aadhaar has become Udyam, and it is very fast today. So you should know what is the capacity, who is the owner, who is going to apply. So there, Udyam is very important. There was a case of Industrial Entrepreneurs Memorandum IEM, which was applicable to medium scale sector. With the threshold limit being increased to 125 crores of investment from 1 for 25, I think this is not much important. But definitely, environment clearance is one of the must. Right. NOC from Pollution Control Board in two stages. One is before you start your construction activity. I mean, आप उसको boundary wall कर दी अलग बात है, but you cannot set up the industry before you have the NOC to consent to establish. तो आपको NOC आना चाहिए establish करने के. If you don't have the NOC to establish, you cannot proceed with your setup of the industry. Similarly, you cannot start the operation unless you have got consent to operate. So operation करने के DCCO के 4 महीना पहले आप अप्लाई कर दीजिए consent to operate. But so many times in India I've seen, I'm telling from my clients or my people like, हमने pressure का लगाया NOC consent to establish, it came after we started construction. Consent to operate कब आया जब यूनिट 1 साल चल चुका है. वो सब चीज मैनेज हो जा रहा था, but it is not possible today. It was 10 years back, 15 years back. This thing is not possible. So you must have that NOC consent to establish on time. This is one of the major bottlenecks today. Let me tell you, consent to establish and consent to operate was the major bottleneck. Today also it is taking some time. But today, if I see all the criteria of registration of the bottlenecks which I have, I think the fire license takes more time. And मेरे को होटल बनाना है, मुझे हॉस्पिटल बनाना है, हॉस्पिटल की जो क्राइटेरिया मुझे मीट करके जो फायर लाइसेंस लाना है मुझे, it is a Herculean task for me to get the fire license. So what happens basically is, if I have to see the licenses, what I have to apply, I will say the promoter, you take account of fire license first. That is your critical path. अब जब इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करते हैं, क्रिटिकल पाथ इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. क्रिटिकल पाथ के बिना आप आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते. क्रिटिकल पाथ में ही तब आपकी प्रोजेक्ट की लाइफ लाइन. तो यू हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई द क्रिटिकल पाथ. अब सीपीएम में ही चलिए, सीपीएम को ही टारगेट करिए, उसी को मारिए जोर से थोड़ा, उसी को ही करिए, तभी जाके आपका प्रोजेक्ट में टाइम जाए. तो मुश्किल हो जाए. This is what is very important. And as I told you, think future backward, that must be there. So you are registering with other authorities, maybe GST authorities, maybe income tax authorities, all those authorities you have to register and then go ahead. Otherwise, again, it will be a problem. So you have to register with income tax authorities, GST authorities, and other authorities, and then go ahead. और आपकी कई लाइसेंसेस है, कई जगह ऐसा है, आप कोई केमिकल यूज कर रहे हैं, तो hazardous प्रोडक्ट है, you need to get license. You go into drug manufacturing, that needs license. You go into mining, आपको blasting करना है कहीं पर, आपको लाइसेंस चाहिए, आपको लिकर लेना है, लिकर का कुछ काम है तो लाइसेंस चाहिए. So many things were so many places when you want to store something which needs license, so you need that license. आपको रेस्टोरेंट में आपका लिकर सर्व करना है, लाइसेंस चाहिए. Yes or no? Like that, so many things are there. You need a license there. Sometimes you need patents, trademarks. तो आप कुछ प्रोडक्ट कर रहे हैं, that is must and it is to be there. Then you want that this product should be there. So basically, you want that this product has to be there. So I want a patent for that. You don't want any problems there later on. So definitely, friends, trademarks, patents are a must there. Sometimes you may go into import of the things or import-export code is must. That registration with the RBI is very important again. Like that, it is going ahead with the licenses like that. So finally, the bank finance. अब सब करने के बाद लाइसेंस कर लिया, आप सब हो गया, which will be definitely asked by the bank. You don't get the money unless you got the license. So bank may put a condition that you produce with the license, then only I'll give you. Or they might give you condition, okay, I'll give you 3 months time. By that time, you give me this. Okay, so this is in nutshell about the planning and implementation also. I try to cover it up, and if there is any questions, we can have time for the questions. I will break it out time for the time being now for the questions part. So anything anybody wants to say or some suggestions also, that also is welcome.
There are few of the questions coming up, sir.
Questions हैं बोलिए.
Yes. First one, what are the major sources of project ideas for MSMEs? One of the participants had asked it.
Come again, madam. क्या sources of
Project ideas for MSMEs.
project ideas MSME के लिए कहाँ से लाएंगे? Sources of project ideas.
Yes.
मैंने तो आपको जनरल दे दिया है आइडिया मैडम. What I've done.
गवर्नमेंट वेबसाइट्स पे सर ये अवेलेबल हैं.
Come again.
MSME वेबसाइट्स हैं जो गवर्नमेंट की, लाइक खादी की है गवर्नमेंट की, उस पे हैं आइडियाज. देयर इज अ लॉन्ग लिस्ट ऑफ आइडियाज फॉर MSMEs.
You see, very difficult question actually. You see, you can give a general idea that these are the
actually idea has
sources of ideas
from the person or the source ना, but
sources of ideas तो source ही है. अब मैं ये बोलूँ आपको कि ये इंडस्ट्री आप करिए और कमाएंगे तो गारंटी दे दूंगा, ये हो नहीं सकता. It's very difficult, isn't it? So it is very difficult. I cannot say this.
We move for the next question, sir. What are the common mistakes entrepreneurs make during project planning?
Okay. Now it's a very wide question, madam. आप देखेंगे एक प्रोमोटर ने सोचे प्रोजेक्ट प्लानिंग इंप्लीमेंटेशन टाइम में उसने एक 100 टन की कैपेसिटी यूनिट है. सपोजिंग, see this can be factors within your control, it can be factors without your control, beyond your control. आप एक यूनिट लगा रहे हैं 100 टन की, आपके मार्जिन 100 टन का आपके पास है, आप उसमें 200 टन कर दिए, मार्जिन आपके बढ़ गई. योर मार्जिन गोज अप, यू हैव टू गेट मोर फाइनेंस, योर बैंक हैज टू गिव यू मोर फंडिंग, अदरवाइज इट विल बी डिफिकल्ट फॉर यू टू गेट द यूनिट डन. So it is your decision to change from 100 to 200. आपने बोला यार economies of scale is there, मैं 100 टन क्यों करूँगा, 200 करूँगा, ज्यादा कमाऊँ. But what has happened is you have stuck. आपका बैंक फंडिंग में लेट कर दिया कि बैंक फंडिंग नहीं किया एक्स्ट्रा, तो फंस गया कि नहीं मैं. तो आपको ये डिसीजन ड्यूरिंग implementation is very important that you stick to your principle. The planning is very important. That's why I told initially you spend more time. आप प्लानिंग में ज्यादा टाइम खर्च करिए, इंप्लीमेंटेशन फास्ट करिए, बट प्लानिंग में ज्यादा टाइम खर्च करिए. आप लगा लीजिए, मैं क्यों बोला बार बार थिंक फ्यूचर बैकवर्ड, कि आप प्लानिंग कर लीजिए पहले, मैं ऐसा करूंगा, ये यूनिट ऐसे ही बनेगा. देन ओनली एंड बियॉन्ड योर कंट्रोल. समटाइम आज आप यूनिट डाल रहे हैं, आज आप एक यूनिट डाल रहे हैं ऑयल की, एडिबल ऑयल. वही एडिबल ऑयल आज मलेशिया से सस्ता में आ जाता है इधर इंडिया में, और एडिबल ऑयल को मार्केट में कॉम्पीट कर जाता है. योर एडिबल ऑयल बिकम्स अ डिफिकल्ट सिनेरियो. यू आर नॉट एबल टू कॉम्पीट विद द मलेशियन ऑयल, यू डेफिनेटली इन प्रॉब्लम्स. So this scenario, the government removed these drawback duties or some import duties. So the import of oil becomes cheaper, and you are at no mistake. Let me tell you, you have this. There is no mistake from your part. You are very sound that My oil is being made at a very low cost. At that cost, competitive है, मैं market share ले लूँगा. But आपको importer से contest करना है. You are in a global world today, so that we have to see. Why are we buying with China for rare earth market? Because of that only. आज government ने क्या बोला है कि मैं आपको दूँगा facility. Even government is ready to give your funding of that rare earth magnet if you want to make. They're giving you subsidies. So because of that only. So there can be various reasons. I just cited you 2 reasons. It can be beyond the control of the promoter. It can be within the control of the promoter.
Next, what are the major sources of finance for MSME projects?
If I classify the sources of funds, it's basically debt and equity. So there can be more funds. There's an article. If you send my email ID to the person, I'll send an article to the person where I've written about the sources available for MSME. This can be separate topic altogether. MSME कहाँ से पैसा ले सकता है? Example. Okay, so that is a separate article I can give you separately. Now, for an MSME, without having collateral, CGTA MSE is the best criteria, though the interest rate is there higher. Banks may not be willing to see if you are a new unit. Banks may not be willing to lend you. बैंक को 25% तो खतरा है ना. Banks will be thorough in checking your credentials. आपका KYC तभी जाके पैसा देगा. If you don't have collateral, definitely it is a difficult proposition. Let me tell you. If you have collaterals 100%, it is definitely possible faster. So that is one of the deciding factor for MSME today. For smaller units, definitely without collateral, they're getting fundings, Mudra, 20 lakhs loan, no problem. So that is a case, there is no problem at all. Microfinance was a big sector funded by the bank, a priority sector given by the government. Today we are in bigger NPS. Why? Because of microfinance. आज microfinance sector का ही NP के चक्कर में banks की NPA बढ़ गई. अब देखिए last quarter data, your NP sector has gone up. From 23 data, 25 data is the highest peak. Not into that peak, but still then it is higher. Just because of microfinance. Though it is the priority sector, it is lot of NPAs there. So this is some
What financial ratios are important during project evaluation?
Fantastic. Now this is what I used to teach. This is not today's topic, but finally, if you have asked the question, now if you pick up any bank's lending model, one of the criteria is the financial soundness, and they judge by different yardsticks. If I go to State Bank's model, if I go to Union Bank, I go to any bank for that matter, and as I told you earlier that current ratio was one of the ratio in case of one bank, where it was the criteria of a financial ratio, current ratio was there as a ratio determining whether I should fund or not. Current ratio in the case of service sector, एक हॉस्पिटल को, एक होटल के लिए करंट रेशियो कहाँ रेलिवेंट है? मैंने बोला बैंक वाले को, सर ये करंट रेशियो क्यों रखे आप? तो हम क्या कर सकते हैं सर? This my hands are tight. It comes from the top, from the top. Then you write to the top that the current ratio is not applicable to me in the service sector. So your model should be such, adaptable to your financial. I mean that modeling should be such. Let me tell you, madam, I have seen all the banks' model. I have never found IRR as one of the criteria in the financial soundness. Why is it not there? When we know that in financial management, my wealth maximization is more important than profit maximization. When I know that NPV is more important than profits, why shouldn't I have IRR or NPV for that matter? The NPV is vague to that matter for some extent. Why can't I include IRR in my evaluation criteria? So the financial evaluation is a huge subject, and the ratios being followed by the bank is separate. And we go by that formula which the banks are there. Say supposing SBI has got some ratios there, so we are going by that ratios only. Whereas IRR part is missing. Why? There is no development on that part, madam. Because what is happening today is we are just imbibing what some consultant has given a model. We are following that time and again. उसके पे कोई change नहीं हो रहा है. So when we teach this subject, we generally tell the participants or the students that this is the model is being given to you, or not necessarily that this model is correct. So it may be possible that you can incorporate more things. Why break-even is not there? They have a different yardstick for break-even, but break-even is a correct as a parameter is not there in the case of rating. अब क्रेडिट रिस्क रेटिंग हर बैंक करता है. तो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल जब होती है, फाइनेंशियल मॉडलिंग आपकी जब क्रेडिट रिस्क रेटिंग होती है सब बैंक की, there are three criteria basically: management, the promoter's background, the industry, the business he is in, and the financial soundness. In financial soundness, you never find IRR, you never find break-even point. These are very vital financial parameters to tell you whether the unit is risky or not. These are not there today in the banking scenario. Let me tell you. But there are ratios. टर्म लोन है तो DSCR रहेगा, वर्किंग कैपिटल फाइनेंस है तो करंट रेशियो रहेगा, बट सर्विस सेक्टर है तो करंट रेशियो नहीं रहना चाहिए. और डेट इक्विटी रहे, चाहे वो TOL by TNW रहे, एक लिवरेज रेशियो रहना चाहिए. So there is a leverage ratio by the banks. Some banks have got debt equity, some banks have got TOL by TNW. TNW is not total net worth, tangible net worth. I deduct my goodwill, intangible assets from my total net worth, and I get TNW. So TOL is a better ratio compared to debt equity because it is comprising my long short term also. आज मुझे जब बैलेंस शीट प्रोवाइड करना पड़ता है, when I am disclosing my balance sheet, I got non-current, current both there. आज बैलेंस शीट में मुझे लिखना पड़ता है ना कि मुझे टर्म लोन का 1 साल का इंस्टॉलमेंट मुझे नॉन करंट में आ गया है, which is banks want basically. So current liability and non-current liability is given in the balance sheet. Taking that scenario into account, a leverage ratio, a profitability ratio, maybe your return on net worth, return on your equity, return on your profit, whatever it is, net profit margin, so many profitability. One turnover ratio, आपका जो turnover हो रहा है कितना times हो रहा है, your that thing, your leverage ratios, like that it goes on. And if it is too much of interest also, you want to have the leverage and interest coverage ratio. But the interest coverage ratio coming going up or not, leverage ratio going down or not, NP going up or not. So all the trend also to be seen. Now the ratio also again, so many times the bank's current ratio. अब कौन सा साल का रेशियो लिखेंगे आप, वो देखने की बात है. आपने पोजीशन किया 10 साल का, आप 10 साल का पोजीशन का एवरेज नहीं लेंगे करंट रेशियो, आप करंट रेशियो स्टार्ट कर लेंगे, आप डेट इक्विटी स्टार्ट कर लेंगे, IRR प्रोजेक्ट कर लेंगे. That period which you consider of the period which you will calculate of the financial parameter is also very important. So if I am taking current ratio, I will take the initial part, not the third year, fourth year, second year, isn't it? So that way we go on to each ratios. So I definitely try to take ratios from each sector. एक मैं liquidity ratio ले लिया, leverage ले लिया, profitability ले लिया, turnover ले लिया, like that. But definitely I would suggest no banks have got it, unfortunately, but IRR should be there. And go ahead, yes. Further, next question.
How does the Udyam registration benefit MSMEs during project implementation?
Udyam registration is a must today. It's a other purposes also strategical तो है ही. आपको बैंक बोलेगा ही बोलेगा आप कर दीजिए, नहीं तो इंटरेस्ट रेट में डायरेक्शन नहीं मिलेगा, तो आप बाउंड है करने के लिए. इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में आप उद्यम कर ही देंगे तो भी फायदा है, नहीं तो फायदा नहीं. तो यू मस्ट हैव उद्यम इन एनी केस.
What are the common risks in MSME project?
What is common?
Risks.
Very difficult question, madam.
In MSME project.
Risks in MSME projects, or for that matter, any service sector, any project, in 3 stages, if I classify. When I start off the project, my construction phase, जब मैं start कर रहा हूँ project, मैं construction phase itself is a big problem. मैं उसको divide करता हूँ 2 भाग में. मैं when I am putting up my project, there are a lot of risks. मेरा EPC कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मैंने एक तो लाइन मैं दे दिया, बिल्डिंग में किसी को दे दिया मैंने, भाई बिल्डिंग को मैंने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे दे दिया. आई हैव गिवन अ बिल्डिंग ऑन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बेसिस, आई हैव गिवन माय प्लांट मशीनरी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बेसिस. आई एम पुटिंग अप पावर प्लांट 1 megawatt plant, and I told this contractor, you put up this plant. The contractor is into problem, he's got his problems. So what happens, I lose in my construction stage itself. So there are a lot of risks involved. It's not necessarily because of me, it is because of the others also. My choice of the things should be very correct. I should have a credible vendor always. Maybe as I told you L2, I should have L1, but credibility is more important always. आप जब सामान खरीदने जाते हैं या आप सामान कुछ मेडिकल का चीज लेते हैं या बच्चों के लिए लेते हैं, आप डेफिनेटली आप प्राइस देखते हैं, क्वालिटी देखते हैं. आप मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट में जाते हैं, आप इफ यू कैन अफोर्ड यू कैन गो फॉर बेस्ट पॉसिबल ट्रीटमेंट. आप स्कूल में बच्चे को पढ़ाते हैं तो आप पैसा कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करते, आप बेस्ट पॉसिबल पढ़ाई कराना चाहते हैं बच्चे को. Similarly here, when you're putting up the project, it may be a lifetime, one-time investment by you, madam. It can be one-time investment. Remember it. आप एक बार जन्म लिए हैं जिंदगी में, आपका एक ही प्रोजेक्ट हो सकता है, वही प्रोजेक्ट आपको आगे ले जाएगा या पीछे ले जाएगा. तो आपको उसको चूज करना है ठीक से. आपको ड्यूरिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन फेज देयर आर लॉट ऑफ रिस्क. तो आपको एक एक पैरामीटर को टाई अप करना है. एंड ड्यूरिंग ऑपरेशन फेज अगेन देयर आर लॉट ऑफ. Interest rate today has come down. Interest rate can go up. Again, three criteria: so operating, financial, political. If I classify the risks into three parts, it is into operating risks, it is into the financial or the other risks. मैंने फॉरेन फंडिंग ली है, मेरे डॉलर्स में फंडिंग है, डॉलर का रेट बढ़ गया, my cost goes up. So that is my financial sort of thing, which is my cost. So my operating risks during my operation stage, there can be other risks. In my political risks, आज यूक्रेन में मेरा प्रोजेक्ट था, रशिया ने वार कर दिया, प्रॉब्लम हो गया ना. I had got a share of a company which was doing well. They had got some projects in Iraq. वो कंपनी कागज हो गया, शेयर का मेरा कागज हो गया है. Why did it have become paper? Because प्रोजेक्ट डाउन हो गया. So political compulsion sometimes becomes a risk factor. So what happens here? Politically, there are some risk factors which are again beyond your control. So again, within your control, beyond your control. My risk in operating phase is three sides, as I told you. In construction phase also three sides.
How is working capital requirement calculated for MSMEs?
Again, there are two types. One is the turnover method, one is the quantum method. We generally do both. The quantum method came up later on, which was on the basis of the turnover, that if I got 100 crore turnover, 20 crores is my limit. They 1/4 of that plus 5% margin, 20% of that turnover. In some cases, they have got, in some cases of MSME, they have got relaxation. वो कम कर देते हैं, मतलब उसको बढ़ा देते हैं percentage को. Now that 25% and then 5% reduction comes to 20%. That means if I have turnover of say 10 crores, my limit can be 2 crores easily. It's a very simple approach. But then when we had this tender committee, chore committee norms, we had that holding period method. That needs calculations to be shown. It will not be time permitting here. So I have to hold. I have to get for each component. I have to see the holding period, estimate that cost of that, how much cost is there, and then I have to take how much bank can fund me. So, for example, inventory. Supposing my inventory funding is say 10 crores, inventory requirement is 10 crores. Bank will fund me 75%. I can get 7.5 crores on that. So my creditors are say 2 crores. So 10 crores is my inventory funding required. 2 crores are my creditors. So 8 crores are my paid stock. On 8 crores, 75% bank will fund me 6 crores. So creditors definitely have to be given. And this is part and parcel of my submission of my stock statement also. That when I do the drawing power calculations, when I give to the bank every month in the operating phase, I need to deduct my creditors. Invariably, sometimes it has to be done there, even if the bank is not mentioned. But sometimes I found the sanction letter, the banks have forgotten to deduct or mention that creditors part. And promoter बोलता है इसमें तो creditors लिखा नहीं है, but हम बोलते हैं नहीं, तो इनबिल्ट है. तो वो हमारी झगड़ा होती है, वहाँ हमारी मतभेद है, एक मतभेद है. But what I mean to say is that paid stock, on that the drawing power calculation, on the book dates again, the drawing power calculation, book dates again, more than 90 days, more than 120 days, 180 days, whatever the sanction letter prescribes. That is my calculation. Otherwise, it will not be included in the drawing power. So I have to calculate that part, and on that basis, supposing the funding is 60% or 70% or 75%, that is my calculation of working capital. I have to link with this whole exercise is the linking. When I do a new project, I have to link that with my forecasts and then go ahead. Is that clear?
Yes. Can interest rate be revised under Khadi Udyam registration?
I couldn't get it again. Can come back again, madam?
Can interest rate be revised under Khadi Udyam registration?
If I have my Udyam registration, I am eligible for a discount rate. That's all. So my interest rate is revised only if I have got my ratings properly. My performance, if I have a new unit, definitely it goes by that whatever rating is there. If it's an operating unit, every year the rates can be revised. So it depends on my performance as well as the interest rate preserving. Now you see today with the repo rate coming down by 0.5% today, all the banks are revising by interest rate. जो बैंक MCLR पे है वो थोड़ा तकलीफ हो रहा है बैंक प्रोमोटर्स लोग हम प्रोमोटर को बोल भी रहे हैं कि MCLR में मत रहिए आप रेपो से डायरेक्ट लिंक हो जाइए तो रेपो से आप लिंक हो जाइए तो आपका टेंशन हट गया तो रेपो गिरा तो आपका रेट गिरा so there is no time gap as such and you see the papers today the banks are definitely cutting down the rates and today I am hearing that banks are giving me funds at 7.5% which was earlier 8.59%. So banks are coming down to give me at 7.5% for many sectors. So the rates revision is not only dependent on Udyam, it is one of the parameter. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. There's one more question coming. Sir, adequacy of market is visible, but tough competition is not. Adequacy of market is visible, but tough competition is not. How to overcome this situation?
See, a lot of factors are interrelated again. My adequacy of market, if it is adequacy of market in the broad sense, whether it is there or not, I mean, the demand supply gap is there. If I'm putting up a project and I have got a captive market, nothing like it. Very difficult scenario. If I have got a captive market, my whether the demand supply gap is there or not, I'm not bothered. Because my project has got captive market. If my pricing, see, then again, it's depending on my pricing, other things also, quality, etc. If there is tough competition ahead, tough competition can be there, may not be there, but usually it is there. Very rare scenario we find that monopolistic situation is there. For example, today in rare earth magnet, China is controlling 90% of the world's production. It is able to dictate terms today. Why? Because they are controlling 90%. आज वो बोल रहा है मैं तो नहीं दूं आपको क्या कर लेंगे आप जापान स्विफ्ट का प्रोडक्शन बंद कर दिया तो टफ कंपटीशन जहां होता है जहां फिर there are a lot of units running together. So if there is tough competition, definitely you assume that there has to be tough competition. So in the auto sector, for example, today, Maruti was a dominant player once upon a time when it entered into 80s, till 90s, it was a dominant player. Today it is less than 50% Maruti in India. Very rare cases we find there is no tough competition. So anybody, for us chartered accountants also to be staying in practice, we have to update ourselves every time. हम लोग के ऊपर मतलब हमारे ऊपर तलवार हर समय लगा हुआ है चार्टर्ड अकाउंट्स also we need to update TP criteria this that we need to update unless we move with the times madam we will not be updated आपने कितनी स्टोरी पढ़ ली कोडैक की स्टोरी पढ़ ली कितना स्टोरी पढ़ लिया आपने जो सैमसंग की सक्सेस हुआ नोकिया क्यों फेल हो गया you have to move with the times only you don't move with the times you're gone Nirma did not move with the time that time so you have to go change very fast adaptable again that advocacy market tough competition adaptability lot of things will come into play into that sector according to me and this is a very difficult question and lot of answers are there.
So one question is coming on repetitive mode that what are the finances available for MSMEs?
Financing
I think
available
almost every participant wants to know this.
See if you go for a small sector small में artisans लोगों के लिए अलग है I am talking of small artisans there can be separate sector as such okay you send me all the email IDs I'll send them the email because I've written an article on MSME funding only.
Okay.
So this was not my topic this is not within my topic today because funding itself is a separate topic madam. So if you tell me the bank finance the appraisal part is a separate topic altogether. So this is a big topic. Let me tell you, appraisal itself is not a 2 hours job. Then MSME, lot of these things, subsidies also available there. So you have to go to every industrial policy of the state where you're putting up how much subsidy is available or not. So a lot of things are there. Now you may have KVIC is there, Khadi Village Industries. Your small scale sector, we can go like that also. CDT MSE as I told you is there. So Fund can come from anywhere. NBFCs are there to lend you. It's not that only NBFCs are there. The cooperative banks are also there to lend you. So it's not only banks, financial institutions also there. Now the financial institutions stage is not correct. I mean, IDBI was there, Apex Financial Institution. There is no more today because it has been converted to bank. So the situation is changed. Okay. So there are a lot of these programs. You have to register with the DIC. This promote PM जो होते हैं ना उसमें promoters employment guarantee scheme में आप जाएंगे उसमें आप जाके register करिए. So that is also there. But it's not a guarantee that you will get a loan. कि PM आप जाके गारंटी कर दिए और आपका KYC ठीक नहीं है तो बैंक नहीं देगा. You can go for single window, but not necessarily that your KYC is not correct or your credentials are not correct. It's very difficult for you to get a loan. So there are many sources, and madam, you can give my email ID and separate if they can ask. No problem. Please share my email ID. Those who want, I will send separately.
Okay, I'll coordinate with Rana ji and do the needful, sir. I think we are close with the questions for today.
Any more?
No other questions, sir.
No, ma'am, you don't have.
All the questions are taken.
Okay.
Financing was the most repetitive question coming up.
Okay, that I will take care because not my topic here today. But anyway, what I will do is I will reply to all the things.
So grateful, sir. So grateful.
Not a problem at all. So thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. And give my regards to our Gyan and Arpit ji. Gyan Arpit kar rahe hain aap log. And Madam Numit and for the kind introduction. And Rana ji for the background works you have done. And thank you all. Thank you the participants. Thank you so much.
So before we close, I have to make a small announcement.
Okay.
Yes, this committee is going to organize a conclave, ICAI MSME and Startup Conclave 2025. It is hosted by WIRC of ICAI on 26th and 27th of June. As you know, this International MSME Day is on 27th of June, so we are kind of celebrating this. So there's a conclave on 26th and 27th June. I would request the participants to join us for the conclave, which has been organized by the Committee on MSME and Startup ICAI. And there's an early bird discount also. If you registered before 15th of June, you will get a good discount. And there are 12 CP hours for members also. So see you at the conclave, all the participants. So we have come to the conclusion of this enlightening session. As William Arthur Ward rightly said, feeling gratitude and not expressing it, it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. So I would like to thank our speaker, CA Pradeep ji, who spared time from his busiest schedule for sharing his valuable insights and expertise with us today. We are truly honored, sir. We are grateful to our participants for their active engagement and enthusiasm. Their thoughtful questions and participations have enriched the discussion and made the session more interactive and valuable. To the technical support team, thank you for ensuring all the arrangements were in place and that everything ran seamlessly. Lastly, I would like to thank everyone who contributed in making this session a memorable and impactful experience. In conclusion, thank you all once again for your invaluable contributions and participation. Have a great evening. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a wonderful session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coordination, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, tech support team.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.